Oregon is going to the Final Four.
The following is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
This is Duck Insider.
We need to get community. We need this thing to be bigger than just our little circle of players and coaches.
Are you kidding me? Touchdown, Oregon.
With 2 seconds on the clock, he hits it!
That's the bigger picture in this thing, allowing the community to celebrate the hard work, blue-collar mentality this group brings to the table.
And the Ducks have won it! The Ducks have won!
We get to struggle together, and we get to have joy together.
Dante will dribble it out! The Ducks are Pac-12 tournament champions!
I am so proud right now to be the head coach at Oregon.
Oregon's a Fiesta Bowl champion in a 12-win season.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck Athletics.
It's a Tuesday edition of Duck Insider here in the Country Financial Studio. Knight Uretsky filling in for Joey McMurray. Joey, hope you're doing well out there, buddy. Congratulations on the kid. And, I hope they're both alive. That's the good news. Matt Ulmer talked about it with you last week. As long as they're alive, that's all that matters. And I hope they're alive. I hope you're alive. And I hope you're hanging in there. Doing a good job here, holding down the fort. Ryan Milano is actually in studio hanging out here with us. We said that Jerry Allen was going to be with us the entirety of the week. Well, Jerry got the day off as well. So Jerry and Joey both have the day off. Ryan's just hanging out. I got the whole desk to myself. It's so clear today on this Tuesday, and we got a great show with you. We do have Jerry coming back later on this week, so stay tuned. We're going to have that poutine later on this week. Me and Jerry excited for that one. Initially, we were going to maybe see about having Georgie on the show on Friday, and Friday, there's not going to be any show. Why? Well, because Ryan Milano is going to be in Santa Barbara and have the call for Oregon baseball. The Ducks, they found out their fate. They're heading down to Santa Barbara against the Gauchos this upcoming weekend. It's a regional that's certainly winnable for the Ducks, and we'll get to that later on in the show. But, today we're going to start with our guest. It's Athletic Director Tuesday, and Jody Sykes is here.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing?
Doing great. Jody, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you in
Appreciate
the studio.
that.
Welcome. You have a big title, Senior Associate Athletic Director, Chief Compliance Officer. You're also the Sport Liaison to women's golf and women's beach volleyball. That's a lot of titles. I have to ask you for myself, because my title, at least here with OSN, is OSN Broadcast Intern Extraordinaire. Very fun title.
I like it.
A great title. Out of all of your titles that you have currently or previously had,
right.
What's your favorite?
Oh gosh. Any of the titles that let me work with the student athletes, I think is probably my favorite time. The compliance part of my job is the main part, right? That's probably what takes up 85-90% of my job, right? But the part where you get to interact with the student athletes, whether it's, traveling with them as their sport liaison or even meeting with them, helping them with their tickets, making sure their families are getting into the games, variety. I've worked with the student athlete advisory committees for years and just been involved in their stuff, or participating in a community service activity, going on the Courts for Kids trip, different things, different experiences. I think we're going up to Nike this week to do some stuff up there with some of our student athletes. So just kind of any chance you get to know them and to get around them and be in their space is kind of fun. That's probably the most rewarding part of the job. And, I do all of the job because that's what I get paid for. But I definitely enjoy the parts where I interact with the student athletes.
No doubt. And you've had a lot of experience getting to work with these student athletes, and one of those experiences came this past week. Women's golf in the NCAA Championships. Got all the way to match play, beat LSU, got to the semifinals. Just what a season it's been for women's golf.
Absolutely. So I'm sure, the fans have heard Derek speak about the season in general and what that looked like. But this was a really difficult and interesting season for a lot of reasons. In the fall, came out hot. I think we started out maybe 4 in the country, maybe even 6 or so in the fall, won a couple of tournaments. Things are going along really nicely. And then we had some changes, and Brianna Chacon decided to go pro, which is great for her. She ended up winning her 3rd ever event on the Epson Tour. So, it was the right decision for her. And then we've had some changes in the lineup, and the spring was a little bit of a different story. It was just kind of a different rotation of folks through and seeing who wanted to fill in those slots and just what it was going to look like. So by the time we get all the way to the championship, we got Pac-12s, and then we got regionals, and then we got the championship, right? By the time we even get to the stroke play portion of the championship, that lineup had only played together twice before.
Wow.
In the Pac-12s and in regionals. So those 5 that we're counting had only played together twice. Of the 7 people, the 5 players and the 2 student athletes that were there, that made it to the semifinals, only 2 of them, Coach Derek and CCT, had been there before.
Wow.
I mean, Chrissy, who is amazing as a first-year assistant coach, had never made it to the national championship as a player. She's an outright champion on the amateur circuit, so it's not that she doesn't know the golf, but she'd never been to that environment. You've got 3 freshmen who, again, excellent golfers, Kiara Romero, Tiffany Huang, and Karen Suru, who in their own right are amazing individual champions, but have never been to that scenario because, again, they're freshmen, right? And then Minori Nagano, who was our other senior, was a transfer from junior college, so she played in the junior college national championship, but not necessarily the Division I and the pressure and what that looks like. So when you think about going into not only stroke play, but then match play with basically 5 of 7 people never having seen it, been there, knowing what it looks like, it's just an incredible, incredible feat. We don't get to match play. We don't get to championships without Karen Suru. We don't get to see UCLA without Kiara Romero. And Minori Nagano goes out 7-6 against her match against LSU in that morning setup. She crushed it. She was done on hole 12. I look up. I'm walking down hole 12. I look up and she's hugging her opponent, which is kind of what they do in women's golf. Like at the end of the round, you like give them a little quick hug, right? I'm looking up. I'm walking down 12, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's over, because she crushed her 7-6, right? CCT Chensu Chen, she is one of the biggest senior leaders. She's a 5th year for us. She was a senior leader. She pulled them together at the end of that regionals in Pullman, and and really got them through on that last day. So contributing members, all of them. Tiffany, she was crushing it as well. I don't want to leave her out. And then let's give some credit to the coaches too. They went in with a great game plan. They thought about what they wanted to do. They knew what their players could do, and they just they put them in the right places. Kiara Romero being the last one out each day meant that the pressure potentially could be on her. That first day it was, or that first match it was. She beat LSU on the 18th hole, right? That second match she goes out and I think she won 4-3 or so. Before we were eliminated. Amazing tournament, amazing team, amazing coaches. It was just a fun experience.
There's something special just about having a run like that with a lot of inexperienced postseason players and just seeing them step up in those big-time moments. And, that was really what stood out to me about this team is just a lot of the new faces really contributing. And like you said, there was a lot of shifting throughout the spring. But, in addition to just how special it was for this group to go on the run, I think it's also equally special that the Final Four were all Pac-12 teams in the final year.
It was funny. We were texting about that. It was great. That was, 3 of the 4 teams were from the state of California. And all 4 teams that made the Final Four, as you noted, were Pac-12 schools, right? So kind of a nice little note to go out on. It also shows you that the strength that 3 of the 4 Pac-12 schools that were in the Final Four are going to the Big Ten. So we're going to, bring some strength to the Big Ten in the women's golf world. And Stanford, of course, will continue to be strong and bring strength to the ACC in that regard. But, it was kind of a stars aligning kind of thing with all 4 Pac-12 schools winning their morning matches and advancing to the afternoon. It was quite historic and just kind of a nice way to go out.
Truly is a great way to go out. And if you think about the overall scheme of just the way that conference realignments come about, just the season in general, and the kind of like the final goodbye. Now, one thing that is new, at least this year, was the Jake. The full year under the Jake, the new facility. Kind of what was that like, and how awesome was it for the team to be able to utilize that this season?
Yeah, the Jake has made a ton of difference for our teams, for both the men's and the women's teams. Just having a place when the weather isn't maybe what you want it to be, to just go. But what I think the student athletes got more out of beyond that kind of just safety from the weather is just the camaraderie and the ability to hang out. So there are some pictures in the group chats and different things with the teams where they're just chilling on the couches and hanging out as a team and enjoying the space that they get to call their own. Now, at times, coaches are going to have to start forcing, or maybe they already have, forcing them to go out into the weather and play in the elements and not just practice in that nice, new, fun, warm environment, right? And which is, it's great to have. And again, we've said this before, but we're super thankful to the donors and to the folks that made that possible, because it really is a key piece in recruiting, in preparation, and just getting them ready to go. But I think that, the best part of it is just the ability to have a place that they can call their own.
No, absolutely. And, I think one thing about golf, and it's great, having this facility, keep them nice and warm and dry and whatnot, but there also is kind of an advantage getting to play throughout Oregon weather throughout the year. And, the weather's not always going to be ideal for every tournament that you go to.
Well, absolutely. I'm sure that Coach Derek has talked about this before, but his wife, who he caddied for on the LPGA Tour, Sarah, she is from Tucson, Arizona. She played in Arizona most of her youth career, and she chose to go to Michigan State for undergrad for that exact reason. You don't get to choose the weather whether you're playing at the collegiate level or you're playing at the professional level. You don't get to choose the weather. So you need to be able to play in all conditions, whether that's rain or cold or weather delays, and so you've got to go sit inside for a couple hours and then come back out once the lightning passes. Whatever that is, that's what happens when you play an outdoor sport. I mean, everybody who plays an outdoor sport knows that that's kind of the deal, right? And very much so in golf. So I actually think we have an advantage here at Oregon, because not only do we have a facility where, if the weather's kind of cruddy, you can go inside and practice and be protected. But you also have the ability to go play great golf courses in maybe some not so great weather and experience what that's going to be like for you in a collegiate championship, in a professional event, in a whatever that is. And it prepares you to be better, because golf is not one of those sports where it's always going to be sunny and 75. That's just not the way that it works, right? And even within a given round, you might hit shots that are not, consistent or the same or whatever. That's just the sport of golf, right? And so I love that we have that here. I love that we have that facility now to get out of the elements if we need to. But the thing that I really love is the ability for our student athletes to prepare for whatever round presents them, whatever the conditions are, hot, cold, rainy, wet, whatever it is, and they're going to be prepared to succeed and win.
No doubt. And, you talk about just overall the Jake and what it offers for these student athletes, their ability to kind of have their home. I'm sure that's a lot different than compared to when you were an athlete at the University of Montana as a golf athlete there, and your conditions that you dealt with playing golf up there. Like, what's the difference like seeing what these student athletes have here at Oregon in terms of golf compared to your experience as a student athlete years and years ago?
Yeah, first of all, I have no chance. Even at the peak of my game, I had nothing compared to the skills that these women have. So let's just put that out there. I have zero chance of competing with them. Even 20 years ago, my 20 years ago self has zero chance of competing. So there's that. That's a huge difference. This is just a different level. But to that extent, I did have the opportunity to get into the weight room, but it was a shared weight room for all sports. We didn't have a locker room. We didn't have a facility. We were fortunate enough to have warm weather gear and clothes, because in Montana you play in the weather because you maybe have a screen, if you're lucky, that you get to hit into off of a mat, and and you don't really get to see how the ball flies and that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't have changed my experience for the world. I loved absolutely every minute of being a collegiate golfer, and I think I would have loved it regardless of where I played. I was very fortunate to play at the University of Montana, and for my coach and coaches actually there, and just enjoyed my time and the experiences that I had, which eventually led me to the job that I have, and the fact that I'm still in the business many years later. We won't go into how many years it is, but the game has changed. The technology has changed. The putt view books that the student athletes get that show them what the picture of the hole, what the green is going to do, the tendencies, the distances. None of that existed in my world when I was playing in college golf. The TrackMan system, which is one of the systems we have in the Jake, but it's also a portable system that can show you what distance you're hitting, not only what distance you're carrying the ball, but how far it is going to roll out, so you know a little bit better about your clubs and what they actually can do for you in any given situation. That kind of technology didn't exist. The ability to shift on the fly, even during this past week, one of our student athletes almost basically got a fitting in the middle, in between stroke play and match play, and switched out the shafts on 2 of her clubs because it wasn't working for her. She just wasn't feeling it. And fortunately the manufacturer was right there, and we were able to kind of get her a session, and she switched them out, and she went out and played, even better the next day because of that just lickety-split shift in technology, right? So it's very, very different on that side of it. But the student athlete experience is very much similar in terms of you got to go to school still, you got to do all of the weightlifting and training and nutrition services and academic services and medical services. A lot of that stuff is the same, only just even more amplified. So
I can only imagine. And what's funny is that, like, when I think of TrackMan, because I've worked with baseball a lot, and baseball has like the whole TrackMan thing. You can see the miles per hour, the exit velo, and all that. I can only think about how helpful that would be for golf, and just being able to figure out which clubs to use and that sort of thing. Just overall, I mean, obviously technology has changed a lot, but how has the postseason changed in women's golf?
Yeah, you're really testing my memory here today. You expect me to remember what postseason was like 20 plus years ago? No, I will tell you, though, that I was on the Division I Women's Golf Committee when we started match play and when we started to get television coverage, and that's been within the last 10-ish or so years, maybe a little bit more than that, 10 to 15. And so that's definitely changed. When I was in college, you were lucky to get in, and if you got in, it was only stroke play, and none of it was on TV. There was no coverage. There was no even live stream or anything like that. The one thing I noticed, especially this year when we were down in San Diego, is just the number of photographers and video cameras and people capturing the content and capturing the event and capturing not only from the NCAA side of it, because they had some staff down there that were doing just like the generic stuff, but then each school had folks that were there with big lens cameras and video cameras and all sorts of stuff. So it's really cool to be able to provide that to the student athletes now, something that didn't exist. I don't have a lot of pictures from when I played, unless my folks happened to be at the event and maybe took something with some old camera that then they had to go get film printed and
develop the whole
absolutely.
process.
Like the instant access that these student athletes have to their photos nowadays is just that's completely different as well. But I think that's part of the game's growth and the interest in the game of golf in general. The fact that the Golf Channel is willing to televise Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is huge, both for the men and the women. It gets a little bit of stroke play on Monday, and then pretty much all of the matches on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's great publicity, great coverage, and this year, especially on the women's side, 3 great matches, the two in the morning and the 2 in the afternoon, and then also the championship match between UCLA and Stanford. Just really great coverage and scope for women's golf to be able to be seen on Golf Channel and be out there, and certainly that's something very different than from when I played.
It's certainly awesome to see the growth of the sport and just the overall coverage of the sport. Anything else that we missed in terms of golf talk?
No, I mean, just congratulations to our seniors who are departing. We had 4 seniors that we honored at a little gathering. That's Ashley Park and Bailey Hamrickson, CCT Chensu Chen, who I mentioned before, Minori Nagano. Those are the seniors that are departing the program, and just the leadership that they've provided. Coach Derek and Coach Chrissy should be, given their kudos as well, because they really did a great job with a lot of different stuff being thrown at them this season. So just kudos to them, and it's fun, and thank you for letting me tag along. It's a great opportunity to be there.
Kudos indeed. Great season overall for women's golf. Quick timeout, and when we come back, we'll talk more to Jody Sykes about compliance here at the University of Oregon on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
Don't go anywhere. Duck Insider continues after these messages on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Back here in the Country Financial Studio, Knight Uretsky here in the 1 o'clock hour talking with Jody Sykes, Associate AD, Chief Compliance Officer, and Sport Liaison for beach volleyball, women's golf. We got all the titles, long titles, but the one that we're talking about now, Chief Compliance Officer Jody Sykes. You know, what's new in compliance?
You know, compliance is a fun world right now. I don't know if anybody,
I can imagine.
pays attention to headlines or anything that's going on out there. It's just, for those of you that have been around sports your whole lives, obviously the collegiate model is very different than what it was. We talked in the previous segment about how much golf has changed. Compliance has changed even in the last 5 years. My wheelhouse is understanding and helping our coaches understand the bylaws, the NCAA rules. Well, those are changing pretty much on the fly. We're dealing with changes that come through the court systems. We're dealing with changes that come through the NCAA processes, but then we're also dealing with memo guidance from presidents or other entities. And then any given day when Congress decides, if they decide to step in at some point, we're monitoring that. And a lot of it's just answering the coach's questions about, okay, so I read something about this. Was that a proposal or did that actually change? And trying to keep up. I've been in the business long enough that I used to be able to give answers off the cuff and say, yeah, the bylaw says this and you're going to be able to do that. Now I'm like, okay, wait a minute, give me 5 minutes. I need to go read what's actually in place right now, and has that actually changed? And then I'll get you a confirmed answer, because I don't trust myself with the changes, and our staff is the same way. We just don't trust ourselves with the changes that are out there to be able to say, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't. Now there's some stuff that's still consistent, and we're still dealing with it, but that's also part of what makes compliance kind of interesting. There's different fires on different days. I don't feel like it's the same monotonous job every day, because you never know what's going to come up. You never know, even before all this chaos, you didn't know what kind of question you were going to get from a coach, or, what kind of crazy harebrained idea that they were going to have in the recruiting process. Because there's a whole lot of folks out there, even on our staff, that are super creative, right? And that's the reason that we have some of the rules that we have, is because somebody got too creative and we had to figure that out. But the world is different now. And so it's kind of fun in a way to deal with that change and ride that roller coaster. Other days I'm like, can I just have a breather? Can I just have 5 minutes where nothing changes?
Can I just sit in the station for a second?
Yeah, exactly, right? Can I just not look at my phone and not answer a phone call? No. But again, that's part of why I do love the job that I have, and I'm grateful for however long it lasts and whatever it develops into, or whatever that looks like as we go forward into this, because compliance is different. It used to be that you came to the compliance officer and we said, no, you can't do that, or yes, you can. And now it's more like, well, there's no bylaw on that, so as long as it doesn't do X, Y, and Z and you have the budget for it, have at it, right?
Yeah.
Which is completely different, completely foreign, especially, like I said, to those of us that have been around the collegiate model for a long time, right? Even name, image, and likeness stuff, and the revenue sharing with student athletes, and whatever that's all going to evolve into based on all these lawsuits and the settlement and everything that's coming, and how that ends up playing itself out. It's just going to be different, and you're either going to accept it or you're not.
Do you find yourself getting new questions weekly, monthly? How
hourly?
Hourly?
No, it's not. it's not hourly, and certainly it does go in waves, right? So our coaches are out, when they're out recruiting, we typically will get more questions because they want to make sure that they're doing things the right way. When a sport is just about to start their transfer portal window, we tend to get a few more questions because they're asking, who can we call when can I reach out to this person, and what are these rules, and then anytime anything changes, we get a lot of questions about, I read this on social media, or I read this XY. What's the truth? Because as you all may have discovered, there are times when a headline is not 100% accurate, and so that I do appreciate that our coaches do reach out, whether it's to our staff or to their sport administrator, sport liaison, to just be like, okay, so I read this on this ticker, or I read this on this, social media, whatever it is, site, and is this correct? Am I reading this the correct way? And sometimes things pass without people thinking through, okay, so if we do this, it's going to have this implication. Mm-hmm. So we spend some time figuring out, okay, did we think through that? And so that's where our partners at the Pac-12 and the Big Ten are useful to help us with some of those behind the scenes conversations about the legislations or the court passings, and just the intent was this. So for now, we're going to go with this is what you can do. And then maybe that changes in a couple of weeks when everybody's like, no, it was actually meant to be this. So then we'll switch it around. Again, that's what makes my job fun, but it's also what makes my job a little bit hectic, because then you're trying to communicate that not just to football and men's and women's basketball coaches, but to any coach that might be affected, or to any administrator or department even that might be affected by, this is going to create more work for you, or this is going to create less work for you, or whatever that looks like. So here's an example. Eric Evans, who's one of our photographers, works with us on a variety of different projects. The legislation passed back in March that you could no longer do a photo shoot on a football unofficial visit. Mm-hmm. Right? Seems pretty straightforward. No more unofficial visit photo shoots. What the tweak was it was only football. So that doesn't eliminate Eric from having to work the weekends when other sports have unofficial visits. Yep. And so he was thinking he was going to get maybe a few of his weekends back. No, sorry, E, you're here. You're still here, buddy. Because now he's doing photo shoots still for the unofficial visits for other sports. Now I fully expect that to change going forward at some point. Those will probably be eliminated for other sports as well. But he was all excited, right? Mm-hmm. But what that one little word, football, was missed when you're talking about it just in generic terms, because everybody was just thinking, oh, unofficial visits, great. Mm-hmm. But it was football specific. So those are the kinds of things that we try to help our coaches understand, try to help our staff understand, and work through. Just right now, really just trying to keep up with the amount of information, what needs to be sent back out, what needs to be adjusted, and what needs to be hit 2 and 3 times with our coaches or with our staff, so that we are all on the same page. And then every time it changes, we go back and revisit one way or the other, constantly communicating with Office of General Counsel, constantly communicating with the 2 conference offices, just trying to absorb and make sure that we are relaying accurate information to the rest.
So with all this changing that's happening throughout collegiate athletics and just your job as a whole, how do you stay grounded during this? Is it every morning you're waking up, coffee, reading the bylaws? How do you stay up to date with all this information coming in?
Well, there's a couple ways. Yes, coffee is important. Coffee is definitely probably one of the first things I do, whether it's make it here in the office or pick it up or make it at home. But that's just kind of to get the motor running, so to speak. The nice thing about interacting with coaches is they pump you up too, right? They're like, I got this great idea and I want to go do this and this change. And I'm like, okay. Give me a minute, and then we'll go for it. And a lot of times I get to say yes, and hey, tweak it here, and and away we go, right? But it's hard to keep up. It is a lot of reading. It's a lot of information coming in from different sources, and sometimes we miss something. We're human, right? The good thing is we have 3 other members of the athletic department staff who are working in this space and dealing with eligibility and financial aid and waivers and those kinds of things. And Bill and Leanne and Tyler do a great job. Also, hey Jody, did you see this? We might need to get this out to the staff, or that'll come from one of the senior administrators. Hey, we got this memo from the Big Ten on this. Jody, maybe you should write this up in a way that's understandable and send it out, right? And so we still send a lot of emails. That seems to still be the most efficient way to communicate with our coaches and staff. Student athletes maybe not so much, but we try to get it to the coaches and staff, and then they can help get it to the student athletes if it's something that affects them. But we just kind of absorb and read and hope that we're not missing anything. And I read some things once a day for a week until I actually, put it into my brain. And then by the time I have it in my brain, it changes and we start all over again.
It's a whole process.
It is.
It's just a complete cycle.
You got it.
Absolutely. So with all this happening, it happens throughout the year. Do you even get a summer break?
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that you force it, right? You have to take the time away, right? So summer breaks are different for everybody, right? Coaches a lot of times will take their summer breaks during those recruiting dead periods or during that, projected time away when their entire sport, for example, kind of shuts down. With compliance and with other sport administrators in senior level administration, you just have to decide, I am taking this week and I am not going to respond to emails or phone calls or whatever it might be. Usually July is okay. Maybe from the 1st to the 20th or so of July is a little bit slower. February is actually not too bad either. You sometimes can get a decent break in February because the winter sports are up and running. Everybody's kind of in conference play, and the spring sports are just kind of getting started, so they haven't hit full throttle yet and what they need. But you just ultimately, it doesn't matter when it is. Maybe it's a 3-day weekend, and that's enough, right? It doesn't have to be 10 days away on a cruise. But you just have to find time to take that and get away and go play golf or whatever it is that you're going to do. Because there's not a really built-in, you think of summer vacation and our students are off from June 15th to the end of September. Well, that's not the world of college athletics in general, certainly not the world of compliance coordinators and compliance folks, but you just find the time and you make it work.
Yes. A couple of things. Number one, I hope you get that 10-day cruise
Absolutely,
at some point.
eventually.
That would be super awesome.
Retirement is on the horizon.
So hopefully you get that in the coming months. Number two, I did not think that February was going to be more of a quiet time because as a broadcaster, that's the most busy time for us. I mean, with all the winter sports happening, spring sports, we're running.
Absolutely.
I would have never thought that.
Yeah, for compliance people, everybody's here. We're kind of settled in terms of being enrolled in winter term. We don't have to be at every game. We try to go to a lot of games, right? But we don't have to be at every game. So if you're trying to find a window, February's actually, there's a couple weeks right there kind of in that early part of February that are actually not too bad. You don't feel like you miss as much and get completely buried when you return to the office.
That's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Anything else fans should know?
Wow. I think just, thank you for your diligence and your questions. We appreciate the following and we appreciate all that you do for Oregon athletics. It's going to continue to change and, everything is going to continue to be volatile and let us know. Send in your questions. I'm happy to come back and send them in, and whether it's Knight or Ryan or Jerry or Joey or Scott or whoever, somebody will
One
find
of us will be here.
Somebody will find us the answer or ask us the question, and we'll be happy to get those back out. But just thanks to the fans for continuing to support Oregon Ducks, support all of our student athletes, and just ride the roller coaster with us, because that's pretty much what it is right now.
Awesome. Well, Jody, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Another timeout, and when we come back, we'll talk Oregon baseball, heading off to the NCAA Regional this upcoming week here on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Summer's here, and with a new Toyota, you can make the most out of summer with all your friends. Most of my friends happen to be four-legged.
Your summer starts here, but it all ends June 3rd. Toyota, let's go places. Dealer inventory may vary. See your participating Toyota dealer for details.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
Summer's here, and with a new Toyota, you can make the most out of summer with all your friends. Most of my friends happen to be four-legged.
Your summer starts here, but it all ends June 3rd. Toyota, let's go places. Dealer inventory may vary. See your participating Toyota dealer for details.
Duck Insider continues after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here.
I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Now, Uretsky hanging with you here during the 1 o'clock hour in the Country Financial Studio. Jody Sykes just left. We had a great conversation with her, the Chief Compliance Officer, Sport Liaison for Women's Golf. And now it's time to turn our attention to Oregon baseball. Yesterday was the selection show for Oregon men's baseball. And, hey, look at that. Watching themselves on the big screen, finding out where they're going, and they're going to Santa Barbara. What an exciting announcement. They were all gathered there on the field at PK Park, and they're in the tournament. The Ducks were the lowest-ranked team in the RPI to make the tournament. They're the number 3 seed in the Santa Barbara Regional Field. The Gauchos, of course, the Big West champions, number 1 seed, with the 2-seeded San Diego team from the West Coast Conference. They're the champions of the WCC. They're the number 2 seed. And then Fresno State, the Mountain West champions, they're going to be the number 4 seed. So 3 conference champions and the Ducks, the at-large bid in the Santa Barbara Regional. And certainly, this is a winnable regional for the Ducks. This is an Oregon team that this season is 37-18. They won 8 out of 10 Pac-12 series. This is a team that, should have been in the tournament, and they were sweating it out to the very end. I know I certainly was. I was watching on my phone. I was getting breakfast with my parents, and I was just like, it's getting late. It's getting late. I think they're going to be in. And I was like, Santa Barbara's coming up. I think this is going to be the regional. Certainly it was. And with that, the Ducks will be facing off against San Diego. The Toros, 40-13 this season. It's going to be Friday at noon, ESPNU at UCSB. Again, no Duck Insider on Friday. Ryan Milano's going to have the call. Ryan Milano's here in studio. Great job all season, buddy. Heading down to Santa Barbara. Actually going to Santa Barbara at the beginning of the year. They were supposed to go down to Santa Barbara, and surprisingly, the weather was better in Eugene, apparently, but then it wasn't. It just poured, but they still played baseball. Yeah, the Ducks won 1 of 3 against Santa Barbara the first time through, and now they look for revenge against a good Gauchos team down in Santa Barbara. And yes, they will be making the trip. Although there's still part of me that's holding out hope, just saying, let it rain in Southern California. Move the games back to Eugene. Let's create a regional, but that's not going to happen. But Ryan's going to have the call for you on Friday, so no Duck Insider once again. And I certainly think this is a good regional, and Oregon, as a 3 seed, should be pretty motivated. This is a top 3 team in the Pac-12, and I think they have a pretty deep roster. Head coach Mark Wasikowski yesterday, after finding out where the Ducks will be going, talked to the media. Every time that we talk to a coach from the University of Oregon, it's brought to you by the Willamette Valley Cancer Institute and Research Center. Fight like a Duck with exceptional cancer care close to home. Here is head coach Mark Wasikowski.
You said the other day you thought your body of work merited inclusion in this. No surprise to see your name at all? Was there a little sense of relief or anything like that? What was it like just when you saw Oregon pop up there?
Well, when you leave anything in the hands of a committee and you don't win an automatic bid, then you leave it up for grabs. Did feel strong with the body of work that we had, the number of conference wins that we had, the number of conference weekends that we won, or just overall, we only, in the entire season, a 14-week regular season, only lost 2 weekends at all. And so, that body of work, pretty good. And I think that was what merited us getting in there. And obviously just being 1 game out of first place, we win 1 more game in the Pac-12, we win first place. And so it didn't happen. We're happy to be into the tournament. And now it's an 0-0 like everybody else. And there's 64 great teams in there.
And thoughts just on the pod you're going to and those matchups?
Got to play good. Doesn't matter what pod you're in.
What has been your message to the club the last couple of days after the tournament?
Today's the day. Today's the most important day. The past doesn't do anything for you. You can bring negatives or positives from the past, but it's about today. It's about making today the best lift, the best day that you can possibly have to prepare yourself just for today. Just worry about 1 day in a row.
What do you remember from Santa Barbara specifically from earlier in the season?
Well coached, a lot of talent, pitching staff that's really, really good, and just a steady offense.
destination you were planning to go to each of the past couple of years, but weather played a factor there. Just when you're preparing for a different setting in a newer building or redone turf or anything like that, like how prepared do you feel like you were at the time for an event that didn't end up happening, but whatever knowledge you may have going into it in terms of their new setting?
It's a nice park, it's a fair park. It's got, plays a little tight down the lines, and then it plays big in center field. I think it's a really fair park. I know they've just put down a brand new surface, and so it should really play well. Coach Checketts has got Oregon ties, duck ties, which is, he's a friend of ours and all that. But we don't play Santa Barbara. We don't play them first. We play San Diego first, I think, is our first game. And so the focus for me isn't on somebody that we aren't scheduled to play. It's somebody that we are scheduled to play, and that's San Diego.
What have you seen from San Diego this year? Another 40-win ball club in this regional.
Well, there was a lot of talk, on the West Coast Regional Advisory Committees about how good San Diego was. There was a lot of support nationally from some committee members for San Diego with their body of work. Brock Undrich has done a nice job. They came in here last year. When we got the better of them last year here, and then I think they got the better of us on the front end of that home and home a year before that at San Diego. Good club, they're a good club. They won the West Coast Conference. There was a couple of teams in the West Coast Conference, them in Portland, that were really high-end level teams. I think Brock's got a really quality pitching staff at San Diego, and a steady offensive club. They've got a transfer in that's at the top of their order amongst some really good old other hitters that we've seen now for 2 years. This will be year 3.
The guys who experienced last year's regional win, what do you want them to take from that could potentially help or whatever? Or do you want them just focused on today, like you say?
Yeah, just focused on today. The stuff that they experienced last year should naturally rub off on others that didn't experience that last year. And so, or even the previous year or 2 years, this is the 4th year in a row now that we've been in a regional. And the COVID year obviously took that opportunity out of that for the 2020 season. But for 21 to today, there should be experience now in that locker room where guys have shown up in regional settings, whether it's road or home, super regional settings. And so just using that experience, I think it's not really something you can plan out. I think it's something that those kids gather, something unique, each one of them, and then they bring to the team in the locker room with what they learned and experienced. And so those are things that I don't even know what they're going to share, but that's the beauty of it is the experience piece is something that can kind of spread through that locker room, and they don't even know that they're doing it.
I was made this past week while I was at the conference tournament about obviously the fate of the conference, and a little bit was made during the selection show. I'm sure this next weekend the era comes to an end, and you're going to be the last program that people see for this university, the Pac-12, wearing the Pac-12 logo. What are your thoughts about that when this season ends, that this era for this program, that the era for the conference is coming to an end?
Yeah, and I can only speak on the conference side of it from the baseball angle, and I'm disappointed because in the baseball side of it, college baseball was built from the Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-6. The Pac conference in college baseball pioneered college baseball. It was the best, period. More national championships, considerably more national championships in this league. I think 29 national championships in Pac baseball. The second place conference is the SEC, that's very strong now at 16. So 29 for the Pac and 16 for the SEC, that's a big gap for first and second place. And so for that conference to dry up in baseball is obviously disappointing because of the strength of it. The coaches that have come through the league, tremendous coaches, Mark Marquez, Andy Lopez, Rod Dato at USC, the list is really thick, Bob Milano at Cal, so many great coaches in this league. John Savage, currently national championship coach at UCLA. My gosh, Jerry Kendall, and his great staffs at the University of Arizona with several national championships, Jim Brock at Arizona State. There's been so many national championships in the conference that it's disappointing to me that it's drying up. And at the same point in time, you can flip it and say it's an opportunity for us last remaining Pac schools to go through this tournament and make our mark, end with another Pac national championship. And there's a couple of teams that have that opportunity, us being one of them. So what a great chance. That's my message to the team today.
You guys put Brock Moore in as a starting rotation guy. Yeah. This being a more traditional, college series, will it just be the normal, the RJ, the Grayson, the Kevin in the weekend, or did Brock do well enough to maybe put his name into the?
Oh, he's put his name in the hopper. There's no doubt about it. He was about as good as you can get the other day, and we haven't set our rotation. We'll look at it and we'll go. we'll set that rotation and we'll let the guys know.
So that was head coach Mark Wazakowski. The Ducks heading down to Santa Barbara later on this week. The Ducks facing off against San Diego Friday at noon, ESPNU, and you can catch Ryan Milano on the call on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield. Later on that night, UCSB will be facing off against Fresno State. That game's going to be happening at 6 o'clock. So if the Ducks win on Friday to advance to Saturday, they'll play at 7 p.m. But if they lose, then they'll be at 1 p.m. on Saturday. So that's the current schedule, Oregon versus San Diego. All you need to be focusing on right now is that Friday matchup against San Diego at noon. Ducks versus Toreros. And, I really think this is a regional that Oregon can win. Exciting stuff for Coach Mark Wazakowski and the squad. Another timeout, and when we come back, we'll talk track and field. Just wrapped up the NCAA West Preliminaries. And we'll get you all recapped heading into the NCAA Championships happening next week at Hayward Field here on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Summer's here, and with a new Toyota, you can make the most out of summer with all your friends. Most of my friends happen to be four-legged.
Your summer starts here, but it all ends June 3rd. Toyota, let's go places. Dealer inventory may vary. See your participating Toyota dealer for details.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
Summer's here, and with a new Toyota, you can make the most out of summer with all your friends. Most of my friends happen to be four-legged.
Your summer starts here, but it all ends June 3rd. Toyota, let's go places. Dealer inventory may vary. See your participating Toyota dealer for details.
Duck Insider, your home for the latest news on Oregon athletics on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Oregon track and field. What a vast weekend it was for the track and field team, both the men's and women's team competing in the NCAA West Preliminaries. That was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and there were several athletes for both the men's and the women's team to advance to the NCAA Championships happening here, Tracktown, USA, next week. It's going to be Wednesday through Saturday, June 5th through June 8th. And this past weekend for the Oregon men's team, they'll be represented at the NCAA Championships by PJ Ize-Iamu, as well as Elliott Cook, Reinhardt Harrison, Thomas Palfrey. Those three are going to be in the 1500 with Ize-Iamu at the 100 meters. Raphael Rapp in the decathlon is going to be advancing to the NCAA Championships. And then on the other side of things for the women's track and field team, what a year it's been for them. Top 5 team in the country, and they have 11 national qualifiers to compete in the NCAA Championships again here in Eugene, Oregon. A lot of names. Shauna Grebo set her own school record in the 400-meter hurdles, and she's going to be competing across a lot of different events. Jaden Mays in the 100 and 200 meters also advanced with Mia Barnett in the 1,500 meters. Claudia Kazimirska in the 1,500 meters advanced. Shilon Yildiz in the 500 meters is going to be advancing with Grebo as well in the 400-meter hurdles. Katie Clute in the 3,000 steeplechase is going to be advancing. Lily Jones, Jaden Mays, Grebo, and Ella Clayton in the 4x100 relay. Grebo, as well as Ella Clayton, Katrina Wright, and Shania Hall in the 4x400 relay also advance. Shayla Scott in the high jump with Jada Ross in the shot put and discus. What a year it's been for Jada Ross as well, the athlete from North Medford. Shelby Moran, who we mentioned on the show on Friday, advanced in the hammer, and then Taylor Chosek in the heptathlon is also advancing. So all those athletes, a combined 15 between the men's team and the 11 with the women team. 4 for the men, 11 for the women, 15 combined between the two teams. They'll be advancing. NCAA Championships happening, Tracktown, USA, coming up this upcoming weekend. Man, I just got to say, the pre was this past weekend. Everybody was out and about for that. That's fun. I think the pre is a very special event, and I went to the NCAA Track and Field Championships when they had them at Hayward Field a few years ago. That was fun. As a student at the University of Oregon, obviously track is something that's pretty prevalent when you walk down campus and you see Hayward Field, but to actually be in the stadium and get to see these world-class athletes compete is a lot of fun. The community comes out every year, and if you're on the fence, maybe it'd be cool to just see Hayward Field in general, or go to this event. I would do it, honestly. It's just that much fun. It's a long day, but, there's so much going on. You're never going to be bored. There's always an event happening, whether it be a field event, whether it be the actual races happening on the track. It's a really fun time, and it's really special that we get to bring it to Eugene, Oregon. That's what they built Hayward Field for, and I can't wait to have it here this upcoming next week. Again, June 5th through June 8th at Hayward Field, Tracktown, USA. Exciting stuff, and come out and support the Ducks. There's going to be a lot of them out there, and, you can fill your day with track field, supporting the Ducks. Nothing better than that. This could be the final time you could be supporting the Ducks at home this upcoming or at the end of this school year. So a lot to look forward to. One last time out, and when we come back, we'll wrap it up talking Bill Walton, talking Ducks, talking everything here on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Put your phone on D&D. That means that do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always sing with me. So put your phone on D&D. That means that do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always remember this beat.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Wrap it up here on Duck Insider. Nate Uretsky filling in for Joey McMurray, as well as Ryan Milano, who's actually just hanging out in studio right now. He's doing audio. Scott, he's over there directing. It's a good group. A lot less filled than Friday, but it's a good group of guys here today. Happy to be with you. Yesterday was a tough day for a lot of people, and myself included. Yesterday we learned that Bill Walton passed away. Just a guy that loved the Pac-12. I had the pleasure of meeting Bill Walton. That's me with Bill Walton. This is a true story. After a basketball game my sophomore year, I went to the game, and I wore that shirt specifically for Bill Walton. I knew that he was going to be on the call, and, he's a guy that I looked up to. I'm a big fan of the Grateful Dead, and, Bill, with his imagery in the Grateful Dead, his broadcasting style where he included numerous Dead references to his calls, I love that about Bill. And, he was a real reason why I came to the University of Oregon, because he supported the Conference of Champions, the Pac-12, and I wanted to be a part of that and uplift this conference. And, yesterday, unfortunately, he passed away due to cancer. And, a lot of us here at the University of Oregon in the Pac-12 really built a lot of relationships with him and, have a lot of good things to say. When he saw my shirt, he pointed it out. He goes, "This guy has the coolest shirt there. I used to look like him. He had red hair." And, I told him that I wanted to be a broadcaster someday just like him. And, he said if I kept working at it, someday I could. And so I hope that I will get that opportunity. I mean, I am doing it right now. But I do hope someday to be broadcasting on ESPN or something like that, whether it be at the University of Oregon, broadcasting ESPN, Fox Sports, wherever I may go in my career down the line. I think that one day I'd hope to, tell stories and support the Conference of Champions, the West Coast athletic schools, the same way that Bill Walton did. And so here at the University of Oregon, we have this old video of Bill Walton taking a tour around campus, seeing the trees. Here it is.
How cool is this? Columbia Sportswear Outdoor Program Suite. Let's go. Man, how cool. My nickname in this sport is Crash. So I got this one fixed.
Yeah,
I think we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go right now. Yeah, come on. Yeah, you. Oregon Outdoor Program here, where dreams come true. Doug Fir. Hey, Doug, how you doing, champ? This is a state tree of Oregon. These are the giant sequoias. I didn't know that these trees grew this far north. Is this 8 or 9 months old, you think, or what? Did Norm Van Brocklin play here? That's for Norm Van Brocklin. Wow. What kind of maple tree is this, John?
This is an Oregon big leaf maple.
Oregon, there's no leaves on it. I love big leaf maples.
I do too.
Oh.
That's just so much fun to watch. Really just a great guy overall. You can't help but smile watching that. And us here at the University of Oregon, we wish his family the best. And, we'll remember him here in the Pacific Northwest and what he did with the Blazers and everything. Fun show today. Talked some baseball, talked with Jody Sykes, wrapped it up with track and field and Bill Walton. We'll see you tomorrow. Me and Jerry coming back here on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you is.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics.